You wouldn't expect a milkshake to spark heartbreak and the greatest act of kindness this small suburban town had ever seen. But on that Tuesday, the moment the straw left the lid, everything changed for Mia Parker and for everyone who believed in simple acts of goodness. Mia's story began long before she pressed her palms against the cool glass doors of Speedy Burger. Every day, she rose at dawn in her small bedroom with walls painted a soft lilac, her favorite color. Her chestnut brown hair fanned around her face in gentle waves, and she often pinned it back with sparkly barrettes that caught the light. Mia had Down syndrome, which meant she experienced certain parts of life differently from the people around her. But it also meant she noticed sunshine in the strangest corners, where others saw only shadows. She lived with her mother, Joy Parker, a meticulous, hardworking woman who spelled rules in colored ink on a calendar pinned to the refrigerator. It was Joy who encouraged Mia to apply at Speedy Burger. Mia had spent weeks rehearsing what to say in the interview, her voice quivering on those practice runs. She practiced how to greet customers, how to work the register, how to bag the orders carefully. She'd gone over each detail until she had worn the edge of her mother's patience thin, but Joy never let Mia see any hint of frustration. Mia's excitement radiated in ways that made Joy's heart feel full. When Mia's official acceptance call came, mother and daughter jumped up and down in the living room, hugging each other with unbridled joy. From the first day at Speedy Burger, Mia felt a little ripple of nervous energy. She wanted so badly to do everything right. The uniform was a bit big on her petite frame, and she rolled the waistband of her black pants a few times so they wouldn't drag on the floor. The red visor that went with the polo shirt slipped over her brow, occasionally pressing on her eyelashes. She squinted when she read the printouts of orders but made sure to concentrate, her lips forming silent words as she counted the number of fries, the layers on each burger, or the swirl of soft serve in a cone. Her boss, Raoul, was patient and kind. A stout man with a perpetually creased brow, he spoke calmly even on days when the lines looped around the store. He recognized Mia's enthusiasm and did his best to ensure she was comfortable. Even so, coworkers varied in their reactions. Many quickly embraced Mia's warmth, her constant wide smile, the way she'd wave at them across the kitchen, shouting, "I'm proud of you," if they made an exceptionally neat burger or turned a stressful rush hour into an orderly process. Others dismissed her. They saw the extra seconds it took her to wrap a sandwich precisely. They noticed her gentle way of double-checking an order by counting out loud, 1 tomato, 2 pickles, under her breath. Some even teased her, rolling their eyes behind her back. Mia, sensitive to subtle changes in tone, would feel her shoulders sag the tiniest bit whenever she sensed disapproval. But her mom had taught her a powerful trick. When they frown, you smile wider. So she did exactly that, telling herself, "They just don't know me yet." One particular coworker, Simone, quickly became something like a big sister to Mia. With a loud laugh and equally loud sense of style, Simone made even the dullest tasks brighter. She'd sing old pop songs while dropping fries into sizzling oil. When Mia struggled to wipe down the tables quickly, Simone would hand her a fresh rag and say, "We got this, girlfriend," turning the chore into a quick dance with the table corners. They had a code. If Simone put a sticker on Mia's uniform, it meant Mia had done something extraordinary in her shift. By Mia's second month on the job, her visor was dotted with bright star stickers, each a symbol of her accomplishments and a testament to Simone's unwavering support. As the weeks rolled by, Mia settled into a rhythm. She'd greet customers with an enthusiastic hello, "Welcome to Speedy Burger," making eye contact and offering them the friendliest smile. She took their orders carefully, making sure to press the right buttons on the screen. Speedy Burger was known for a few crowd-favorite items: the giant double cheeseburger, the curly fries, and thick milkshakes that you could hardly force through the straw. It was a busy place, especially around lunchtime. Mia's biggest hurdle was time management. The beep of the fryers, the sizzle of the grill, the clamor of voices, and the weight of a growing queue could send her heart racing. She tried to remain calm by humming a quiet tune under her breath, her mother's favorite lullaby. Sometimes she got flustered and apologized repeatedly for any slowdown, even if it was barely a few seconds. She made sure, though, to keep track of everything by counting to herself. When customers saw her sincerity, many responded with warm acceptance. Although there was the occasional grumble from impatient patrons, she kept her spirits high, encouraged by Simone's winks of reassurance from across the counter. One Tuesday in particular, the day started like any other. Mia arrived 15 minutes early for her shift, uniform neat, name tag polished. She clocked in, washed her hands meticulously, and set out to restock plastic cups and lids. The restaurant was bright and airy that morning, sunshine streaming in from the windows. At around 11 a.m., the predictable lunch rush began, and Mia found herself stationed at the register. She took orders, her voice steady but gentle. She carefully repeated each item to ensure accuracy, smiling even wider when customers said "thank you" or "take your time." Then came him, a man in a sharply pressed shirt and tie, carrying a stack of folders under one arm and balancing a phone on his shoulder. He was rattling off instructions to someone on the other line. Mia could see the stress lines on his forehead as he approached the counter. He nodded curtly at her to indicate he was ready to order, still barking words into his phone. Mia waited patiently for him to finish, but he simply shifted the phone from one ear to the other and barked, "Just a sec," as though Mia should somehow read his mind. She tried to speak softly, "Welcome to Speedy Burger." "May I?" He cut her off. "Yeah, I want a large giant double cheeseburger meal with curly fries and a chocolate shake." Mia repeated, "Large giant double cheeseburger meal, curly fries, chocolate shake." Her fingers moved across the screen. She double-checked. "Would you like that with?" He was no longer paying attention. He was scolding whoever was on the other line. Mia stood politely, waiting for him to confirm. The line was starting to form behind him. She glanced to her right, meeting Simone's eyes. Simone gave her a small nod as if to say, "You're doing fine." Once the man ended his call, he swung his gaze to Mia, annoyance etched across his features. "You done?" he said. Mia, with a nervous smile, repeated, "Would you like that with onion or extra? Didn't you hear me?" He pressed a palm to his forehead and let out a long sigh. "Forget it, just ring it up fast, I'm in a hurry." Mia's mouth felt dry. She forced out, "Yes, sir, I'm sorry," and completed the order. The total appeared on the screen. He handed over cash and she carefully counted out his change. That was where she faltered. She recited the numbers under her breath, trying to be sure it was correct. $4.53. She counted the bills correctly, but while handing the coins back, her fingers slipped. A coin rolled off the counter and clinked on the tile floor. She apologized softly, "I'm sorry," and bent to pick it up, but Simone, who was grabbing supplies from behind, quickly swooped in to retrieve the coin and gently placed it in the man's open palm. Mia finished by printing his receipt. He snatched the receipt and stomped away to wait for his food, shaking his head in clear disgust. Simone whispered, "Don't worry about him, honey," giving Mia's shoulder a squeeze. Mia swallowed hard, willing herself to focus on the next customer. She delivered a bright smile that wobbled just a bit, but she did her best. The next few orders went smoothly enough. Each transaction seemed to erase a fraction of the tension that still tingled in her fingers, yet Mia couldn't help glancing back at the man every so often. He was packing around near the pickup counter, staring at his phone, tapping his shoes in impatience. She tried to shake the feeling, hoping he would just take his meal and leave, but fate had other plans. A minute later, Maya, the grill cook, set the man's tray on the pickup counter and called out his order. He marched over, shoved his phone in his pocket, and took the tray. Mia saw him lift the bun to inspect. Then he lifted the fries to see if they were hot. Finally, he poked the straw into the chocolate milkshake. His eyes narrowed. She could almost see the anger building, as though something about the burger or the shake wasn't quite meeting his expectations. By that point, Simone was at the next register, helping other customers. Mia was still assisting another person when she noticed the man stomping back to the counter. Before Mia could even excuse herself from the customer she was helping, the man pointed an accusing finger at her. "What is this?" he demanded. He shoved the tray onto the counter, nearly knocking over someone else's drink. His own chocolate milkshake wobbled dangerously close to the edge. "I specifically asked for no pickles, and there are pickles on it." Mia's pulse quickened. She had indeed repeated the order exactly as he'd said. A giant double cheeseburger meal, curly fries, chocolate shake. Had he mentioned no pickles, she was sure he hadn't. She forced her voice out, keeping it steady. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't hear you say no pickles. I can have them remake it for you right away." He snarled, "How incompetent can you be? I'm in a hurry. Now I have to wait longer." Mia felt her face flush. She glanced at Simone. Simone was halfway through taking another order, but her eyebrows knitted together, and Mia knew she wanted to jump to Mia's defense. However, the line was too busy, and Simone had no choice but to continue with her own customer. The man's voice rose. "Every time I come here, there's some new problem. I swear, it's always something when I see you behind the counter." Words felt stuck in Mia's throat, and she stammered, "We'll fix your order right away." She slid the burger back across to the kitchen. "Could we please have a rush on a no-pickle burger, please?" Her voice trembled. Raoul, who had been managing the drive-through orders, rushed over to help. He tried calming the man, reassuring him that the food would be out in a flash. Meanwhile, Mia felt the sting of tears. She tried to maintain her composure. She hated crying on the job. She didn't want to appear weak or incapable. Her mother had reminded her so many times, "People can be impatient, Mia, but you are strong enough to handle impatience." Within 2 minutes, a fresh burger was ready. Mia placed it on a tray with new fries, wanting to ensure everything was piping hot. She took a deep breath, walked to the man, and said, "Here you go, sir. I'm sorry again for the inconvenience." He tore open the new burger and took a quick glance. Then he exhaled hard, as if everything about this experience was too much for him. He grabbed his milkshake, slurped once, and frowned deeply. "Now this tastes wrong," he declared, tapping the side of the plastic cup. "I asked for a chocolate shake. This tastes more like a watered-down something, probably because I've been standing around waiting for you to fix my burger." Mia opened her mouth to respond, but the man's rage was no longer rational. With a swift, sudden motion, he hurled the milkshake across the counter. The cold contents splattered onto Mia's face and uniform, the lid popping off and cascading thick chocolate liquid down the front of her shirt. The restaurant went silent. Everything froze for a heartbeat. Mia felt an icy sensation drip along her cheeks. She blinked, stunned. In her entire life, no one had ever thrown a drink in her face. She heard a collective gasp. She tried to breathe, but shock gripped her lungs. Then customers started murmuring. One mother clapped a hand over her child's eyes, outraged but helpless. Another older man said loudly, "That's uncalled for." Simone slammed down her receipt printer, eyes blazing, and started to rush forward. She wasn't sure what she planned to do, maybe yank the man by his collar, or maybe just give him a furious piece of her mind. Raoul hurried over, speechless, half fumbling to find words to calm the situation. Meanwhile, Mia stood there, her uniform soaked in chocolate. Tears formed but didn't fall. Her breath came in shallow gasps. It might have ended there, with Mia's humiliation and a hush over the crowd. But someone had been waiting quietly at the corner table, observing everything. That someone had just finished her own meal and was about to leave, but had witnessed the entire meltdown from the man in the tie. Her footsteps approached swiftly. In that moment, before Simone, Raoul, or anyone else could respond, the quiet customer stepped into the fray. She was about average height, a bit older than Mia, with a purposeful tilt to her chin. Her eyes were fierce. She reached gently for Mia's shoulder, partly as a gesture of solidarity, and partly to make sure she wasn't physically hurt. Then, with an air of calm authority, she turned to face the man who still stood there, shaking with rage and adrenaline. "Sir," she said quietly, her voice quivering with controlled anger, "you need to apologize." The man's face contorted in confusion. He hadn't expected to be challenged by a bystander. For half a second, a hush passed over the entire area. Everyone was watching, but the man scoffed. "Apologize? She messed up my order, wasted my time." The stranger's eyes hardened. "She's working hard, and you just assaulted her with a drink. Look at her uniform. Look at her face. Do you not see she's another human being, doing her job?" Before the man could spit out a retort, Simone found her voice. "You can't treat her like that. You better be glad we don't call the cops." Mia slowly wiped a trickle of chocolate from her cheek. She was trembling, partly in shock, partly because she felt an odd sense of shame, as though she had done something to deserve this. She wanted to shrink into a corner, but she also knew she had to stand up for herself. She forced herself to look at the man, her eyes glossy with tears, but no words came out. The older customer reached into her pocket and handed Mia a napkin, which Mia clutched. Then the woman looked the man in the eyes. "You should be ashamed," she said firmly. "You don't talk to or treat anyone, particularly someone who's doing their best, like they're beneath you, and you definitely don't throw food or drinks at them." The man looked around, noticing that nearly everyone in the restaurant was staring in disbelief or disgust at his behavior. A flicker of uncertainty passed through his gaze. He mumbled something about incompetence again, but this time it lacked the punch of his earlier tirade. Embarrassment tinged his cheeks. Mia's voice finally found life. It was small and shaky, but audible. "I'm sorry, sir," she said again, "that your order was wrong. I really tried my best." As soon as those words slipped out, Mia's tears started flowing in earnest. She couldn't stop them. They weren't loud sobs, just quiet streams of overwhelmed emotion. In that split second, the man's anger deflated into something resembling shame. He looked at Mia, who was wiping her tears with the napkin the other customer had given her. The hush in the crowd pulsed with a tension that felt like a physical weight. For one searing moment, it seemed that time stood still. The man, however, was too consumed by his own wounded pride to offer a genuine apology. He grabbed his corrected burger and bag of fries, turned on his heel, and stormed out of the restaurant, leaving behind a chaotic swirl of feelings. As the door slammed shut, the sounds of the restaurant rushed back in, the beep of the fryer, the whir of the shake machine, the squeak of shoes on tile. Raoul, his face damp with perspiration, turned to Mia. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his tone thick with concern. Mia nodded, though tears still slipped down her cheeks. She couldn't bring herself to speak right away. The older customer who had come to her defense gave Mia's hand a gentle squeeze. "He's gone now," she said. "I'm so sorry that happened to you." Simone hurried forward, wrapping an arm around Mia's shoulders protectively. "Girl, let's get you cleaned up." She guided Mia out from behind the counter and toward the employee bathroom. As they walked, a few customers called out, "Hang in there, sweetie, and we're proud of you," Mia, though she had never met most of them. She felt both overwhelmed and oddly comforted by their words. In the employee bathroom, Mia looked at her reflection. She saw chocolate dripping off the brim of her visor, smudges across her cheeks and down her shirt. The smell of artificial chocolate flavor clung to her. Simone wet some paper towels and carefully dabbed at Mia's face, trying to help her regain some composure. Mia's bottom lip quivered, her eyes brimming. "I messed up his order," she whispered. "Now everyone's upset." Simone shook her head firmly. "That was not your fault, and we all saw it, Mia. You did everything right. You repeated his order. He never said no pickles. Even if you had messed up, that's no excuse for his behavior." She paused, locking eyes with Mia in the bathroom mirror. "Understand," Mia nodded, but a trickle of doubt still lingered in her expression. Simone brushed a stray lock of hair away from Mia's face. The important thing is that you're safe and that you remember you are good at your job. You made one man angry, but you have 100 people who love seeing your bright smile at that counter. Trust me." Mia sniffled, hugging Simone. "Thank you." The hug lasted only a moment before Simone gently broke away, turning to rinse the chocolate-streaked paper towels in the sink. While this was happening, the older customer waited near the entrance of the bathroom hallway, arms folded, a mixture of concern and anger etched on her face. When Mia and Simone emerged, the woman looked relieved. "I'm so sorry," she said again, directing her words at Mia. "Nobody should have to go through that. I can't believe I just saw that happen in real life." Mia tried a small, grateful smile. "Thank you for helping me. I'm sorry I caused a scene." "You didn't cause a scene," the woman said, her tone gentle but firm. "He caused a scene, and I just couldn't stand back and watch him bully you. I've seen you working here before. You always seem so happy to greet everyone. Don't let one nasty person stop you from shining that smile of yours." Then she slid something into Mia's hand, a small, folded note with words scrawled on it. Mia blinked in surprise, but before she could open it, the woman added, "If you ever need a friend or if you ever need help, call me. My name is Valerie." "Thank you, Miss Valerie," Mia said softly. The woman gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder, then turned to leave, but not before offering Simone a firm nod of approval and a quick salute to Raoul, who had been hovering anxiously by the kitchen, waiting to make sure Mia was all right. In the next few minutes, the shock of the incident dissipated into a bustling wave of urgent tasks. Orders still needed to be taken, fries still needed to be salted, and tables still needed wiping. Mia kept replaying the scene in her mind, the cup flying through the air, the chill of the milkshake, and the hush that followed. But she also remembered the unwavering kindness of a stranger who stood up for her. The extremes of human behavior had collided right in front of the fry station. She insisted on finishing her shift, even though Simone suggested that she might head home or take a long break. Mia felt, in a strange way, determined to prove to herself that she could keep going. She put on a spare uniform shirt that she kept in her locker and tried to wipe off the sticky residue from her shoes. Customers stared at her with a mix of pity and admiration when she returned to the register. Some apologized for the man's behavior, as though they had collectively caused it. Mia would simply nod, offering them a ghost of her usual sunny smile. Inside, she felt raw and exposed, as though every nerve in her body trembled. When her shift ended, Joy was waiting in their car outside, ready to pick Mia up. She spotted a tightness in Mia's expression the moment Mia opened the passenger door. "Baby, what's wrong?" Joy asked, her motherly antenna immediately sensing trouble. Mia tried to brush it off, but tears pooled again. She recounted the story, stumbling over her words, feeling as though it all poured out in one breath. By the end, Joy's hands were shaking on the steering wheel. "Someone threw a drink in your face," she repeated the words slowly, disbelieving. "Oh, Mia." "It's okay, Mom," Mia said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "I'm all right now." She even tried a shaky smile, hoping it would calm her mom. But Joy looked torn between wanting to march back into the restaurant and hunt the man down or to pull Mia into the biggest hug possible. She opted for the hug. There in the parking lot, mother and daughter embraced. People leaving Speedy Burger cast sympathetic glances, guessing that Joy was Mia's mother and nodding in quiet solidarity. That evening at home, Mia was subdued. She quietly changed, showered off the last sticky remains of chocolate from her hair. Then she joined her mother at the kitchen table for dinner. Joy had ordered takeout because she knew Mia wouldn't want to see another burger or fries that night. Instead, they had Chinese food, but Mia barely picked at her lo mein. She stared off into the distance, the day replaying in her mind on an endless loop. Joy tried to console her, explaining that some people lash out at the slightest inconvenience, especially if they're stressed or angry about things that have nothing to do with Mia. It wasn't an excuse, Joy insisted, but an explanation. Mia nodded, letting the words wash over her, though she wasn't sure she believed them. Eventually, Joy patted Mia's hand. "How about some TV, she suggested. Mia shrugged, trying to muster a small smile. "Sure." She slid off the kitchen chair and wandered into the living room. She sank onto the couch, hugging a pillow to her chest, flicking through channels, but she couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept wandering. Over and over, she felt the phantom sensation of cold milkshake against her skin. She wondered, would that man think about her tonight? Would he feel bad? Or would he brush it off as just another inconvenience in his day? Later, as Mia was getting ready for bed, she remembered the small note Valerie had handed her. She pulled it out of her pocket and unfolded it. The note read, "You are stronger than you know, Mia. Don't let anyone dim your light. Call me if you ever need help or just want to talk." There was a phone number scribbled underneath. Mia ran her fingertips over the words, tears pricking at her eyes again, this time from gratitude. She set the note on her bedside table and climbed under the covers, feeling a swirl of emotions. Despite the cruel act that day, that piece of paper felt like hope. In the days that followed, Mia tried to move forward. She forced herself to walk back into Speedy Burger with her head high, wearing her uniform and visor. The incident had spread around town quicker than she ever imagined. Speedy Burger was in a busy shopping district, and customers who recognized Mia from the local grocery store or from the community center had heard rumors of the meltdown at Speedy Burger, the horrible man who threw a shake, or the sweet cashier girl who got humiliated. Some came by just to see Mia, to offer her a kind word to say, "Hey, we're proud of you for sticking it out." A couple of days after the incident, someone even left a small bouquet of daisies at the register with a note that said, "Keep smiling." Mia was touched, but she also felt an awkward sense of being in the spotlight. She wasn't used to so much attention, even if it was positive. It took energy to keep up that polite smile when deep inside, she was still replaying the man's sneer and the moment the drink flew. Sometimes she'd excuse herself to the restroom just to take a few calming breaths, pressing her hands to her chest, reminding herself that she was safe. Simone, of course, had appointed herself Mia's personal bodyguard. Anytime a customer raised their voice at Mia or looked impatient, Simone would jump in, her protective side flaring up. It made Mia laugh in a bittersweet way. "Thanks, Simone, but I'm okay," she'd say. "I just need to keep practicing calm breathing." The days stretched into a week and then two. Mia's normal routine slowly reasserted itself. Greet, ring orders, wipe tables, smile, chat with Simone. But something was changing in Mia. She began to notice the anxious tightness in her stomach whenever a customer so much as frowned. She realized how much she craved acceptance and how fragile her confidence could feel. She wanted to be certain that what happened that Tuesday would never happen again, but she also knew she couldn't control other people's tempers. All she could do was control her own mindset. She remembered Valerie's note, "You are stronger than you know." So she tried to find that strength. She woke up each morning, reminding herself that she had a job she valued, a family that loved her, a friend in Simone who cheered her on, and a surprising ally in a stranger named Valerie. The memory of having that support in her darkest moment buoyed her spirit. One evening, almost 2 weeks after the incident, Speedy Burger was hosting a small staff meeting after closing. Raoul liked to do these monthly check-ins to see if there were ways to improve. Everybody sat around one of the large tables in the dining area. Simone, the grill cook Maya, the drive-thru guys, and Mia, among a few others. Raoul cleared his throat and said, "First, I want to acknowledge what happened to Mia the other week. I'm sorry we didn't handle it better in the moment, but Mia, I hope you know that we stand with you." Mia blushed slightly as everyone turned to her. She nodded. "Thank you," she managed softly. Raoul continued, "We want to make sure something like that never happens again. I've contacted corporate and will be posting signs about zero tolerance for harassment or bullying of our employees. We're also working on additional training so that if a customer becomes hostile, we know the proper steps to de-escalate or ask them to leave." Simone raised her hand like a student in a classroom. "I'd also like to suggest that we practice a buddy system at the registers. If someone's getting nasty, the buddy steps in to help so nobody faces that alone." Raoul nodded, jotting down the idea. Mia felt warmth spread in her chest. She wasn't alone. She had a whole group of people thinking about how to protect each other and her. The meeting wrapped up with a few more administrative topics. Then Simone gave Mia a ride home, blasting upbeat music in her car, belting lyrics at the top of her lungs in a comedic effort to cheer Mia up. Mia laughed, letting a bit of the tension from the last weeks melt away. By the time she slipped her key into her front door, she felt lighter. That night, she made a decision. She would call Valerie and thank her, maybe even meet for coffee if Valerie was willing. Something in her gut told her that Valerie had stepped in that day for a reason, and Mia wanted to show gratitude in more than just a passing thank you. So she dialed the number on the note. After a few rings, Valerie answered, sounding pleasantly surprised to hear from her. They agreed to meet at a small bakery downtown the following Saturday afternoon. When Saturday arrived, Mia, wearing her favorite blue blouse, walked into the bakery and spotted Valerie at a table by the window. The older woman greeted her warmly with a hug. They ordered pastries and sat down with cups of tea. Mia hesitated, feeling a swirl of nerves. Valerie seemed to sense this. She reached across the small table and gave Mia's hand a gentle squeeze. "You don't have to be nervous," Valerie said softly. "I'm just happy you called." Mia returned a timid smile. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "It meant a lot to me that you stood up for me when he did that." Valerie's eyes darkened slightly at the memory, but she nodded. "I've seen too many people shrink away when they see someone in trouble. I've been that person who shrank away in the past, and I hated how it felt afterwards. Nobody deserves to be bullied or humiliated, especially not someone like you, who's just trying to do your job and brighten people's day in the process." Mia's cheeks warmed. "Thank you," she repeated. I guess I feel weird about it all. Everyone's nice to me now, but I keep expecting something like that to happen again." Valerie studied Mia's face with concern. "You know, Mia, I'm not an expert in what you've been through or in Down syndrome, but I do know a bit about dealing with anxiety after a traumatic incident." She paused, sipping her tea. "When I was younger, I had a boss who used to yell at me in front of my coworkers. It ate away at my confidence. I was so anxious I could hardly step into the office each morning. I kept thinking, he's going to explode again and I'll be caught in the crossfire." Then one day I realized I had to do something, talk to HR, transfer anything. But I also had to remember that his behavior was not my fault. Mia listened with wide eyes. She nodded. How did you stop being scared? Valerie shrugged gently. I'm not sure you ever stop being scared entirely, but you learn ways to cope. You remember that you have rights and that you're allowed to protect yourself. You also realize there are people who won't tolerate that kind of abuse. People like your friend Simon or your boss Raoul. People like me who just happen to be in the right place at the right time. And you learn to trust yourself. You're stronger than you think. Mia swallowed, feeling a lump in her throat. It still hurts, she admitted. I keep thinking I must have done something. If I'd just heard him say no pickles, which I really don't think he did, but I might have missed it, but I keep wondering if it would have been different. Valerie leaned forward. Mia, even if you had put pickles on his burger by accident, there is no excuse, none, for that man's behavior. I'm sure you know that in your heart. Be kind to yourself. Tears pricked Mia's eyes. She took a deep, shaky breath. Right, she said, mostly to confirm to herself. Thank you, that helps. They spent the next half hour chatting about lighter things. How Mia liked her job aside from that incident. How she enjoyed painting in her free time. How Valerie had once traveled to Europe with her sister. When they parted ways, Mia felt as though she'd found a new friend and a mentor of sorts. Someone who understood, at least in part, what it felt like to face humiliation and fear in a public setting. That night, Mia tucked the memory of that conversation into her heart. She took out her sketchpad, something she hadn't done in a while, and started drawing. She drew a figure behind a fast food counter, her hair pinned back under a visor, a bright star sticker on the brim, a small smile. But behind the counter, she drew a shield, colored in gold and blue. That was how she chose to see herself, not as a victim, but as someone who had endured a painful moment and was still standing, shield intact. She didn't show the drawing to her mom or Simone, not yet. It felt personal, like a promise she was making to herself, but the act of putting pencil to paper let her process the emotions still churning inside. In the weeks that followed, life marched on. Mia's routine at Speedy Burger settled back into normalcy. Customers came and went with the typical variety of dispositions, some friendly, some grumpy, most just wanting a quick meal. Mia noticed that she was more vigilant, attuned to any sign a customer might be on the verge of losing their temper. But she also reminded herself not to assume the worst about everyone. Each day was a chance to be brave again. She crossed paths with Valerie a few more times. Once, Valerie came in with her niece, and Mia smiled brightly, offering them extra napkins with their meal. Another time, they met again for tea, and Mia felt a deepening sense of gratitude that this once random customer had become a friend. Simone even joined them once, turning it into a lively chat about everything from celebrity gossip to local community events. They didn't speak too often about the chocolate shake incident anymore. It was like a shadow in the past, a memory that occasionally flickered but no longer dominated Mia's consciousness. Yet life has a way of throwing curveballs precisely when you start to feel steady. One afternoon, Mia was wiping down tables just after a short lull in the lunch rush. Door chimed and she turned to see who had walked in. Her heart lurched. It was him, the man who had thrown the milkshake. He wore a different tie this time, blue instead of gray, and carried a sleek leather bag instead of a stack of folders. But Mia recognized him instantly. The look in his eyes suggested he recognized her too. She stood there, frozen to the spot, a damp rag in her hand. Her mind whirled. Should she run to the back? Should she pretend not to notice him? Her hands began to shake. He hesitated near the entrance, as though he was also uncertain how to proceed. Finally, he walked to the counter. Mia exhaled shakily and resumed wiping the table, her back turned. She prayed Simone or someone else would take his order. She wasn't ready to face him again, not after the nightmares she'd had for weeks following the incident. Simone was indeed at the register, and she recognized him too. Her entire posture stiffened. She gave him a curt nod, voice clipped. What'll it be? She asked, not unkindly, but definitely not with her usual warmth. He cleared his throat, casting a quick glance around. Maybe he was checking if Mia was there, or maybe he was weighing whether to leave, but he ordered a simple black coffee to go. Simone took the payment swiftly. No words of small talk were exchanged, just an icy tension. Then he stepped aside to wait at the pickup counter. Mia finished wiping the table, her heart pounding. Part of her wanted to hide in the back until he left. Something else stirred, a flicker of resolve. She had promised herself not to live in fear. She turned around slowly, clutching the rag. He met her eyes across the dining area. For a split second, something like remorse flickered in his gaze. He looked down at his shoes. She made no move to approach him, and he made no move to speak. The coffee arrived, and he grabbed it. Before he left, he cast one more glance in her direction. She couldn't decipher it. Maybe it was regret, maybe it was uncertainty. Then he pushed through the door and was gone. Simone hurried over. You okay, Mia? She asked, scanning Mia's face. Mia let out a trembling breath. Yeah, she managed. He didn't say anything to me, so it's fine. You sure? Simone pressed. Yeah, Mia repeated, trying to calm her racing pulse. She gave Simone a small, shaky smile. It's weird, though. I almost thought he was going to say something, but then he just didn't. Simone frowned, crossing her arms. I don't trust that man. Wish he'd just go somewhere else from now on. Mia shrugged gently. She felt an odd pang of disappointment, as if a part of her had hoped for an apology or at least an acknowledgement of what happened. But he had said nothing, just a look that was neither quite anger nor quite sorrow. In the days that followed, Mia kept an eye out, half expecting him to return. She braced herself every time the door chimed, but each time it was someone else, someone new. Life went on, and the lingering tension from his reappearance slowly faded. Yet the fleeting chance of closure he might have offered never materialized, and that unsettled Mia in ways she couldn't fully articulate. At home, when she told her mother about his brief visit, Joy shook her head. Some people can't face what they did, Joy offered. They can't handle the responsibility for their actions. Mia nodded solemnly, trying to let the thought rest. Late at night, she still wondered if maybe, just maybe, he regretted what he'd done more than he could express. Another month passed. Mia continued improving at her job, her speed at the register, her calm during busy lunch rushes, her friendly rapport with customers. One day, Speedy Burger decided to hold an employee appreciation day. There were little certificates for each staff member, praising them for their contributions. Mia received Most Dedicated Team Member, which made her blush. Simone snapped pictures, promising to print them out. Raoul let them all choose a free menu item for lunch, and they enjoyed a few lighthearted hours that afternoon, bonding over the sense of camaraderie that had grown stronger since the chocolate shake fiasco. By the end of that day, Mia felt a warmth in her chest. She remembered how, just weeks before, she had felt so humiliated she wasn't sure she could ever walk back behind the counter. Now, she was the proud recipient of a recognition certificate. She was grateful for her own perseverance. That night she told herself, "I'm going to be okay, I'm okay." Months drifted by, and the incident became part of Mia's past, not a haunting daily memory. She still thought about it sometimes, especially whenever she handled a fresh milkshake order. But she also thought about Valerie stepping forward, Simone's unwavering support, Raoul's changes in store policy, and the kind strangers who had come up to her in the aftermath to offer smiles, words of encouragement, or daisies. From one of her darkest experiences had come an even deeper belief in the good that still existed in people. After her 6-month evaluation, Speedy Burger gave Mia a small raise and an expanded role, allowing her to learn more about prepping the salad station. Mia took on the challenge eagerly. She found comfort in methodically washing lettuce leaves, slicing tomatoes, and arranging toppings in neat rows. She liked tasks that had a clear, orderly pattern. It soothed her mind and let her focus on the present moment. She wasn't entirely free of anxiety, of course. Every so often, a rude customer would shout, or someone would grumble about the wait time, and Mia would feel her heart flutter. But she was learning to find composure in those moments, breathing in and out, reminding herself that she was doing her best. She also learned to let Simone step in if she felt overwhelmed, or to call for Raoul's help if a situation seemed to escalate. One man's fury would not define her. Through it all, Mia's bond with her mother grew stronger. Joy often told Mia how proud she was of her resilience, how impressed she was that Mia kept showing up, day after day, with that bright smile. I felt proud of herself, too. She was learning that independence meant facing challenges head-on, even painful ones. And of course there was Valerie, who remained a compassionate presence in Mia's life. They stayed in touch, usually chatting by phone every couple of weeks. Mia appreciated Valerie's perspective on the everyday ups and downs. Sometimes they talked about Mia's progress at Speedy Burger. Other times, they just chatted about their favorite music or the local library's summer reading program. Time had a way of weaving the threads of Mia's life into a new tapestry, one that included heartbreak and hope in equal measure. Eventually, that day with the chocolate milkshake was no longer the defining moment of Mia's job history. Instead, it became a chapter in a broader story, a story of a young woman with Down syndrome finding her place in the workforce, facing adversity, and discovering that, even in a simple fast food shop, you can learn big lessons about courage and kindness. Yet the story didn't end there. Life, with its twists and turns, had more in store for Mia. More lessons about standing up for herself, forging connections with unexpected allies, and perhaps even encountering that man again under circumstances she never anticipated. For now, though, she was content knowing she had chosen not to cower in fear or let bitterness consume her. She had chosen hope that there were more people like Valerie out there, more people like Simone, more people who, when they saw someone in trouble, wouldn't hesitate to say, "You should be ashamed," to a bully. More people who would call out cruelty, even if they were strangers in a crowd. Mia couldn't control everything. She couldn't stop every storm of anger or misunderstanding. But she could pick up the pieces when they fell, dry her tears, and show up the next day at 9 a.m. She could greet the world with a smile, star stickers pinned proudly to her visor. And that, she realized, was a strength more powerful than any man's outburst could ever overshadow. Mia Parker had survived the worst day of her professional life. She walked into Speedy Burger the very next morning, shoulders back, chin up, determined to let neither spilled milkshake nor venomous insults define her. Yet survival was only the first step in a journey that was far from over. though she felt her confidence returning with every smile from a friendly customer, every encouraging word from Simone, and every protective nod from Raoul. She also knew that events like the milkshake incident could carve out places of caution and anxiety in the soul. The deeper truth was that Mia had changed. She just wasn't quite sure yet how much, or in what ways. On that day at the tail end of the lunch rush, a family of 4 came in, eyes bright, voices lilting with excitement. Mia did what she always did. She welcomed them with a wide smile, tapping her screen carefully as she entered their orders. They joked about whether to share fries or each get their own, and Mia joined in their laughter, saying, "Get extra fries. You can never have too many." They grinned back, nodding as though Mia were giving them secret, sage advice. The father handed Mia the exact change, and she returned his receipt with a practiced, "Thank you so much, please come again." They walked away, happy and unburdened, while Mia glowed in the small satisfaction that she'd just played a part in a pleasant family memory. Moments like that offset the shadows, made the day feel just a bit brighter. Mia had learned to treasure them. If there was one good thing the milkshake incident had done, it was to remind Mia how many people were decent, how many of them truly valued kindness in the mundane hustle of daily life. "I'll take the next customer," Simone called from the register beside her. The hustle picked up again as more people filtered in from the street. Mia checked the time on the screen overhead, 2:14. Her shift ended at 3, and then she planned to spend the rest of the afternoon at the community center, where she volunteered on Wednesdays. She helped with an arts and crafts class for children, and she looked forward to it. If there was one thing that made Mia's heart flutter with excitement, it was the idea of passing on the simple joy of painting and coloring to children whose imaginations ran wild and free. She remembered how in her own childhood, drawing had given her a sense of safety she couldn't find in other forms of expression. She was convinced that any child, no matter how shy or anxious, would feel better with a crayon in hand. At around 2:45, she started cleaning the counters, an unspoken signal to Raoul that she was wrapping up. He caught her eye, giving her a nod of approval. Over the past few weeks, he had continued to show his gratitude for her resilience, making small gestures like letting her pick the day's break schedule or allowing her input when ordering new promotional posters. Mia felt her shoulders loosen whenever she thought about how well supported she was here. Raoul's leadership and Simone's friendship made Speedy Burger feel almost like a second home. But there was also a new face among the staff these days, a young man named Daniel who had joined just a week earlier. He was tall and lanky with alert hazel eyes. He mostly kept to himself, quietly taking orders and flipping burgers when needed. Mia found him polite but distant, as if he was constantly doing mental calculations in his head. On the day of his interview, she'd heard him mention to Raoul that he was between community college classes and needed a job to help pay rent. She smiled at him in welcome, but he hadn't returned the gesture. Mia sensed some tension, though she couldn't put her finger on why. She decided to be patient, giving him space to settle into a new workplace. That afternoon, Mia noticed Daniel working the fryer as she tidied up. He was carefully timing the baskets of fries, his eyes flickering to the clock on the wall. Simone approached him to ask something, and he responded with a brief nod, but no more. Mia wondered if he was simply shy. She knew what it was like to feel anxious in a new environment, especially when you worried about others' judgments. With a quiet resolve, she promised herself she'd try to be friendly whenever she had the chance. After all, Simone had once been the first coworker to truly see Mia and welcome her. She hoped she could pay that forward. Once Mia clocked out, she grabbed her bag from her locker. Simone blew her a kiss from behind the register, mouthing, "Text me later, girl." Mia giggled and gave a wave in return. She stepped outside into the crisp afternoon air, still bright, with sunbeams that made the top of her visor warm to the touch. The bus stop for the community center was 3 blocks away, so she set off, comfortable in her black sneakers, worn from many hours standing at the register. She inhaled the day, letting the mild breeze ruffle her hair. The tension she often held in her chest dissipated, replaced by anticipation for the kids' craft session. When she arrived at the community center, a burst of cheerful voices greeted her. The center's main hall was a flurry of activity. Some older kids were shooting hoops in the gym, while younger ones drew with crayons on large sheets of paper taped to the floor. Mia made her way to the small art classroom at the back, where Miss Linda, a retired schoolteacher turned volunteer, stood arranging colored pencils and markers in neat bins. Linda beamed when she saw Mia. "There's my artistic wizard." Linda exclaimed with open arms. Mia laughed, accepting the hug. Linda was in her late 60s with short gray hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. "I've got a good group today, Mia. Mostly newcomers, ages 6 to 9. Think you could help me with watercolors?" "Sure," Mia answered. "I love watercolors. Are we doing the sunset project?" Linda nodded. "Yes, that's the plan, but they can paint whatever they want." "I just figured a sunset might spark their imaginations." Mia set her bag aside and grabbed an apron to protect her shirt. Soon, a small group of children trickled in, bright-eyed and curious. They took seats at a long table covered in newspaper sheets, picking up brushes and swirling them in the water cups. The room smelled faintly of paint and crayons. Mia adored that smell, it felt like home to her. She introduced herself in her trademark gentle way. "Hi, everyone, I'm Miss Mia. If you want any help, let me know. I love painting sunsets, but if you want to paint unicorns or race cars or anything else, that's cool too." A little boy with wavy blonde hair looked up shyly. "Can I draw dinosaurs?" he asked, as though bracing for a no. "Of course, dinosaurs are perfect for watercolors," Mia assured him. Soon, the kids were absorbed in painting, some carefully mixing colors, others enthusiastically swiping broad strokes across their paper. Mia circled the table, offering tips on blending yellow and orange for the sky, showing them how to create gentle waves of purple for the horizon. It was calm, it was creative, and for Mia it felt like the best therapy in the world. One little girl, Nora, raised her hand timidly. She had short braids and bright ribbons. "Miss Mia," she whispered, "I messed up." She lifted her painting, which had a big water blotch in the center, the colors bleeding haphazardly. Mia knelt beside her. "That's okay. Blotches can be a cool effect. Sometimes it can look like a cloud or maybe a mountain in the distance. Do you see anything interesting in the shape?" Nora studied it, her brow furrowed. "It kinda looks like a dragon," she offered, eyes widening at the possibility. Mia nodded, smiling. "Yes, we can add a few details with a darker color to bring out its wings or its face. Let's try that." Nora's frown turned into an excited grin as Mia guided her brush. For Mia, moments like these felt like healing. She liked that she could help someone see beauty where they saw mistakes. It was a small shift in perspective, but it mattered. When the session ended an hour later, each child proudly held a painting that ranged from whimsical landscapes to dinosaurs in cosmic sunsets. They even let Mia snap a quick photo with them, everyone beaming, splotches of paint on their faces and clothes. Miss Linda gave Mia a knowing nod, the kind that said, "You make a difference here." Mia's chest warmed, grateful that her day job, with all its ups and downs, didn't keep her from giving a little extra to the community. Heading home that evening, Mia felt tired but satisfied. The bus was only half full, so she found a seat by the window and gazed at the passing buildings and street lamps flickering to life. Her thoughts drifted to that day at Speedy Burger, the hustle, the new coworker Daniel, the memory of how life had changed after that fateful milkshake. She thought about how in some ways she was still that same Mia, gentle, eager to please, hopeful. But in other ways she felt stronger. She learned that she could survive someone's worst behavior, that she could still smile afterward, that she could even grow from it. She got off the bus near her block, where her mom's car was parked in the driveway. Mia lived in a modest one-story house with pale yellow siding, its front porch adorned with a wind chime that tinkled in the evening breeze. Joy opened the door as soon as Mia's key turned the lock. "Hey, baby," Joy greeted. "I ordered pizza. I figured we deserved a treat." "That's awesome," Mia replied, bending to unlace her sneakers. "I'm starving." Over slices of pepperoni they chatted. Mia recounted the day's highlights, the sweet family at Speedy Burger, the lively art class. Joy listened, occasionally interjecting an encouraging comment or nod. She knew that each day Mia walked into Speedy Burger was a statement of resilience. Joy had never tried to push Mia away from that job after the incident. She let Mia decide for herself, and Mia had chosen to stay. Now Joy was proud of her daughter's self-awareness and determination. Mia brought up Daniel. "Mom, there's this new guy at work, Daniel. He seems nice enough but doesn't talk much. I wonder if I should invite him to join me and Simone at lunch sometime. Maybe he just needs to get to know people." Joy took a sip of soda. "That's a kind idea," she said, "but don't be discouraged if he keeps to himself. Some people take longer to open up." Mia nodded, nibbling on her crust. "Yeah, I'll see how it goes." The evening wound down with the usual routine. Mia washed up, changed into pajamas, and curled up with a book in bed. She'd been reading a novel about a group of friends who travel across Europe by train. Sometimes she paused, letting her imagination wander to places she'd never seen. One day, she thought, maybe she'd travel too. Until then, she felt content with her small but meaningful world. Her job, her volunteer work, her mother's unwavering support, her blossoming friendship with Simone, and her new, surprising friend Valerie. The memory of Valerie stepping in to defend her still made Mia's heart flutter in gratitude. The next morning, Mia was scheduled for the early shift. 7 a.m. She woke at 5:30, rubbed the sleep from her eyes and stretched, going through the mental script of what she needed to do. Shower, dress, down a quick breakfast, and catch the 6:15 bus. Joy was already awake, dressed in her suit for work, sipping coffee in the kitchen. "Morning, honey," Joy said softly. "Want some eggs? I just scrambled a batch." Mia nodded eagerly, her stomach growling. While she ate, she chatted with her mom about an upcoming local fair. Speedy Burger had put up a small sign near the register about it, promising carnival rides, cotton candy, and local vendors showcasing crafts. Joy said she might take a day off so they could go together. Mia liked the idea, spinning teacup rides, stuffed animals, music. She made a mental note to ask Simone if she wanted to come too. Eventually, Mia hurried out the door, giving her mom a quick goodbye. The morning air felt crisp, dew clinging to the grass, the sun just peeking over the horizon. She reached the bus stop, saw a few other early commuters, and gave them a polite nod. This part of her routine felt comforting, a sign that her day was beginning as normal, no drama, no chaos, just the steady hum of daily life. Speedy Burger's interior lights illuminated the windows when Mia arrived. Raoul must have been inside already, prepping. She slipped through the employee entrance in the back, hung her jacket in her locker, and donned her apron and visor. Daniel was in the kitchen, stacking boxes of frozen burger patties in the freezer. He looked up when she entered. "Hey, morning," she said gently. "Need any help?" He paused, setting a box down. "Oh, hi, now I'm almost done." His voice was quiet but polite. Mia lingered for a moment, remembering her promise to try and be friendly. "If you want, I can help restock the condiments after I sign in. Just let me know." He nodded. "Sure, thanks." It was a small exchange, but Mia sensed a slight openness in his eyes, as if he appreciated the offer. She clocked in and started her usual tasks, checking the soda machine, seeing if the fountain syrups were stocked, wiping down counters. Simone was on the same shift today, which brightened Mia's mood. Simone's presence always felt like having a big sister around. When the doors opened at 7:30, a few early risers wandered in for breakfast sandwiches and coffee. Mia worked the register, cheerfully greeting them. Simone circulated, refreshing the pastry displays and occasionally making jokes with the customers, who seemed to enjoy her outgoing personality. Daniel manned the grill, skillfully flipping eggs and sausage patties. Raoul floated between the kitchen and the drive-thru, making sure everything was running smoothly. Around 8:15, a small line formed, mostly people heading to work, wearing business suits or uniforms. One woman in a nurse's scrubs recognized Mia from a previous visit. She smiled warmly, remarking that she was happy to see Mia still here. Mia returned the smile, her face lighting up with the unspoken meaning behind the words. "You're still here, still doing your thing, even after what happened." Then, unexpectedly, the atmosphere shifted. A disgruntled man walked in, snapping at another customer for blocking his way. Mia felt her chest constrict briefly, a reflex from the memory of that day. She told herself, "Stay calm, you can handle this." The man approached Simone's register, complaining about the line about the slow service. Simone kept her tone neutral, but Mia could see Simone's jaw tight. Mia took orders from two other customers, trying not to let her attention wander to the confrontation. Luckily, Simone managed to handle him without much trouble. She got his order of black coffee and a bacon breakfast sandwich rung up in record time, and soon he was sitting in a corner booth, glowering at his phone. Mia let out a small sigh of relief. Not every impatient or grumpy customer would escalate into something bigger, she reminded herself. Yet she couldn't help the slight tremor in her hands as she handed another customer their change. During a lull, Simone sidled over to Mia. "You all right?" Mia nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine. He just shook me a little. I know it's silly." "It's not silly," Simone said firmly. "We've all got scars, but you're doing great, Mia." They shared a quick smile, then turned back to their tasks, the moment of mutual reassurance settling the tension in the air. As the morning rush ebbed, Daniel emerged from the kitchen to restock cups near Mia's station. She flashed him a grateful grin, stepping aside to give him space. Meticulously arranged the cups, aligning them by size. His focus was intense, as though each cup had to be perfectly centered. "Thanks for restocking," Mia said. He shrugged. "No problem. Gotta keep things neat." She seized the opportunity to strike up more conversation. "How are you liking the job so far? Is it your first time working in fast food?" He kept his eyes on the cups but answered softly, "Yeah, it's my first time. It's okay, tiring, but it pays the bills." Mia nodded. "I get that. I like it, though, because I get to meet new people every day, and Simone and Raoul are super supportive." She hesitated, then added, "I hope I've been helpful too." He looked at her then, a flicker of surprise in his expression. "Yeah, you're nice," he said, almost too quietly to hear. "People here are nice, I'm just adjusting." Mia smiled, her posture relaxing. "I get it. I was so nervous when I first started. Takes time to feel comfortable." Daniel just nodded, then returned to the kitchen. But Mia noticed a subtle shift in his manner. He seemed less aloof. She felt encouraged. For Mia, seeing people warm up even just a bit was a small victory. As the week rolled on, Daniel began joining Mia and Simone for brief lunches in the back room. He didn't talk much about his personal life, but he'd share little anecdotes about growing up in a neighboring town, about how he used to play basketball in high school but had to quit due to a knee injury. Simone teased him, calling him a secret jock, which made him smile in a bashful way. Mia picked up on his sense of humor, dry, understated, but present all the same. She felt glad to see him fitting in. Meanwhile, Mia herself continued to juggle her shifts at Speedy Burger with her volunteer work at the community center. On weekends, she'd also spend time with Valerie or Simone. One Saturday, Valerie invited Mia to a local farmer's market. Mia was ecstatic to go. The bustling stalls overflowed with fresh produce, handmade crafts, and the aroma of sizzling street food. Valerie introduced Mia to a few of the vendors she knew, bragging about Mia's role at Speedy Burger as though Mia was a hometown hero. Mia blushed, uncertain how to respond. "I'm just a cashier," she murmured. "You're more than that," Valerie countered gently. "Your presence there changes the atmosphere. I've seen it." Mia's eyes misted slightly. Valerie had a way of making her feel seen. They strolled through the market, sampling fruit jam on crackers, sipping lemonade, and exchanging stories. Valerie opened up about her own younger years, explaining that she had once dreamed of being an artist but ended up working in corporate finance. Life twists us in unexpected ways, she remarked, but I still paint on weekends, and maybe one day I'll retire and open a small art studio. Mia listened intently, picturing Valerie in a sunlit studio, happily painting away. Comforted her the idea that dreams didn't have to die just because time had passed or circumstances had changed. She mentioned her own love for painting, describing her volunteer sessions at the community center. Valerie encouraged her wholeheartedly, saying Mia should consider selling some of her artwork at local fairs. The notion both excited and frightened Mia. Could she do that? Actually sell her paintings? She held on to the idea, letting it nestle somewhere in her mind as a future possibility. Back at Speedy Burger, the routine pressed on: morning prep, lunch rush, mid-afternoon lulls, evening dinner crowds. Mia found that each day, her confidence in her tasks grew, and her interactions with people felt more natural. She even earned more star stickers from Simone, though Simone now joked that at the rate Mia was going, she'd run out of places to stick them on her visor. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, Mia and Simone finished their shift and decided to grab some ice cream from a stand a few blocks away. They sat on a bench, laughing about silly moments from the day, like the time Simone had accidentally given a customer an extra-large soda when they asked for a small, or how Daniel had nearly tripped over a mop bucket during the lunch rush and managed to catch himself in a comedic pose. When the conversation turned quieter, Simone's expression grew thoughtful. Mia, I never really asked you after that day when that awful man threw the shake. How did you get over that fear? I know it must have been tough. Mia looked down at her melting cone, swirling the soft serve with a spoon. I'm not sure I'm fully over it, she admitted. Sometimes I still get scared when customers get upset, but I had so many people supporting me. My mom, you, Raoul, Valerie. It reminded me that for every one person who's cruel, there are so many more who are kind. That makes me want to keep showing up. Simone reached over, squeezing Mia's hand. You're stronger than you think, you know. Mia smiled, eyes glistening. I guess so, thanks, Simone. They finished their ice cream, watching as the streetlights flickered on, each pool of light revealing a small patch of sidewalk. It struck Mia as symbolic, each light chasing away a bit of the darkness. The days continued with a gentle rhythm, and soon a few months had passed since Daniel had joined the team. His presence was now woven into the store's fabric. He'd poke fun at Simone's love for pop music. He'd chat with Mia about the strangest orders they'd gotten that day. There were times when he seemed lost in thought, though, and Mia couldn't help but wonder what weighed on him. She saw a certain heaviness in his eyes sometimes, as if he was carrying burdens he didn't know how to share. As for Mia, she kept discovering new facets of herself. She worked up the courage to show one of her paintings to Valerie, a watercolor of a sunrise over a field of lavender. Valerie was effusive in her praise, urging Mia to consider taking the next step, perhaps entering it in a local art show. Mia felt a swell of pride and apprehension. She wasn't sure she was ready for such a public reveal of her personal art. Still, the idea glimmered in her thoughts like a distant star, something that could guide her someday. One quiet afternoon, the store had only a few customers, and Mia was organizing the sauce packets. Daniel approached, hands in his pockets, looking a bit nervous. Mia, can I ask you something? He mumbled. She turned, pushing a stray hair back under her visor. Sure, Daniel, what's up? He glanced around as though ensuring nobody was listening. Do you know how to apply for scholarships? Like for community college, I'm trying to go back, but money's tight. Mia tilted her head, considering. I don't know all the details, but my mom might. She's good at researching stuff like that. Or there's the public library. They have advisors who can help. Also, some nonprofits help people with tuition if they qualify. I can try to help you look it up. He sighed, a hint of relief crossing his features. Yeah, that'd be awesome. My folks don't really know about this stuff, and I'm still new to it. I want to get a business degree or at least an associate, but you know how it goes. Bills don't stop coming. Mia nodded sympathetically. I get it. Let's talk after our shift. We can use the break room computer, or I can do some searches on my phone. Cool, he said, offering a small, genuine smile. Thanks. That day after they clocked out, Mia and Daniel huddled around one of the small tables in the back, Simone occasionally chiming in with jokes. Mia pulled out her phone, typed in community college scholarships, and they browsed. Every so often, Mia would read a paragraph aloud, and Daniel would take notes on a napkin. They discovered a few local opportunities, including a small scholarship geared towards students working part-time in customer service. It felt like a glimmer of hope. Try applying for these, Mia suggested, pointing to the screen. It might take some time to hear back, but it's worth it. Daniel nodded, biting the end of his pen. I'll do that. Thanks, Mia. You're a good friend. She wasn't sure if they'd used the word friend before, but hearing it made her heart glow. She reached out, gave his shoulder a small pat, and said, You're welcome. I'll help however I can. The following week, Daniel submitted his applications. Whenever the store was slow, he'd pop onto the break room computer to check for updates. Mia quietly cheered him on, while Simone teased, "Don't forget us little people when you're the next big entrepreneur." Daniel would roll his eyes, but Mia could tell he was pleased by the support. Meanwhile, Speedy Burger announced a team-building event, an after-hours get-together at the local bowling alley, meant to boost morale and camaraderie. Raoul handed out flyers to each staff member, encouraging them to attend. "We'll cover the lanes and pizza," he said. "Family members are welcome." Mia felt a small thrill at the idea. She'd never bowled with her coworkers before. Simone immediately said she'd be there, practically bouncing with excitement. Daniel hesitated, muttering about having to check his schedule, but eventually he agreed. Mia decided she'd invite her mom, though she wasn't sure if Joy would have the energy after a full day at her office. When the day of the event arrived, Mia found herself at Rainbow Lanes, a neon-lit wonderland of crashing pins and pop music. The smell of fried food mingled with the chemical tang of bowling alley shoe spray. She scanned the crowd of Speedy Burger employees. Most were already in rented shoes, picking out bowling balls. Simone was laughing loudly with the grill cook Maya, who pointed out the gaudiest colored ball she could find. Raoul stood by the snack counter, instructing them to order whatever they wanted. Daniel leaned against a pillar, watching the others as though unsure where to insert himself. Mia approached him, her rented shoes squeaking on the polished floor. "Got your ball yet?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not yet, I'm terrible at bowling." Mia giggled. "Me too, but it's fun. Come on, let's find a light ball so we don't strain our arms." They wandered over to the rack, picking out a couple of balls with a medium weight, testing the finger holes. Simone called out, "Hey, you two, you're on our lane." She beckoned them over, and soon the three of them were inputting their names into the scoring system. A row of employees took seats behind them, cheering whenever someone knocked down a pin. The laughter and camaraderie were infectious. Mia's first attempt was laughable. The ball veered straight into the gutter. Simone hooted with laughter, giving Mia a high five anyway. "Practice shot," Simone crowed. "Next time you'll get a strike." Mia grinned, feeling the playful energy of the night soaking into her bones. Daniel, true to his word, was no bowling prodigy either. Still, they each managed a spare or two by sheer luck. After a while, Mia slipped away to grab a slice of pizza. She spotted Joy sitting at one of the tables, sipping a soda. Mia's mom had come straight from work, wearing her office attire under a slightly oversized Rainbow Lanes polo that someone had handed her. She waved Mia over. "Come eat with me," Joy urged. Mia sat, devouring a slice of pepperoni. Joy gave her a once-over, smiling. "Look happy," Mia nodded, glancing around at the scene. Coworkers chatting, joking, and cheering each other on. "I am," she said simply. "I like feeling like part of a team." Joy took Mia's hand briefly. "I'm proud of you." Warmth flooded Mia's chest. She squeezed her mom's hand in response. "Thanks, Mom." Soon, Simone spotted them and motioned for Mia to return to the lane. Mia excused herself, promising her mom she'd come back soon. As she rejoined her coworkers, she watched Daniel take his turn. He released the ball with a cautious flick of the wrist, managing to knock down 7 pins. A small whoop went up from the group. Mia felt a surge of contentment. Moments like these, simple, fun, messy, were the building blocks of belonging. Midway through the game, Simone leaned toward Mia. "Hey, guess who's here?" she whispered. Mia followed Simone's gaze to see Valerie, who had just walked in carrying a small gift bag. She waved at Mia. Mia beamed, surprised and delighted. Valerie approached, smiling wide. "I bumped into Raoul yesterday, and he insisted I drop by," she said, handing Mia the gift bag. Inside was a framed copy of the photo they'd taken at the farmer's market, a sweet snapshot of them laughing under the canopy of a produce stand. Mia felt her heart swell. "Thank you," she murmured, hugging Valerie tightly. "This is so sweet." Valerie shrugged lightly, affection in her eyes. "I just wanted you to have it. Consider it a reminder of how far you've come and all the new adventures waiting." The rest of the night passed in a blur of friendly competition, spilled soda, and loud pop music. By the time the event ended, Mia felt like her cheeks hurt from smiling. She said goodbye to her coworkers, old and new, feeling that intangible sense of unity that comes from shared laughter. Even Daniel, usually so reserved, left with a grin on his face. That weekend, Mia decided to finally take a step towards sharing her art. She gathered a few of her watercolor paintings, sunsets, sunrises, fields of flowers, a night sky shimmering with stars, and carefully arranged them on her bed. She snapped some pictures with her phone, planning to send them to a local community event coordinator who occasionally hosted art showcases. Her heart pounded as she hit send. It felt nerve-wracking to put her personal expressions out into the world, but she remembered Valerie's words, "Don't let fear hold you back from the life you want." Over the following days, an undercurrent of anticipation buzzed in Mia's thoughts. Speedy Burger was busy as always, and she threw herself into work, carefully assembling orders, greeting customers, and exchanging banter with Daniel and Simone. But in quiet moments, she'd check her phone for an email reply about the art show. Finally, one afternoon, a notification lit up her screen during her break. The subject line read, "Invitation to participate in community art fair." Mia's heart soared. She quickly skimmed the email. Dear Mia, thank you for sharing your beautiful watercolor paintings with us. We would love to invite you to display them at our upcoming community art fair next month. This event will feature local talents of all ages and backgrounds. Please let us know if you're interested. Space is limited, so kindly confirm soon. Mia let out a small, excited squeal. Simone, who sat across from her in the break room, nearly choked on her soda. What happened? Simone exclaimed. Mia read the email aloud. Simone whooped. That's awesome, Mia. You have to do it. Mia pressed her phone to her chest, nerves fluttering in her stomach. I want to, but I'm scared, she admitted. What if people think they're amateurish? Girl, you're not amateur. You've got real talent, Simone insisted. Do it? Mia smiled, feeling her friend's enthusiasm overshadow her fears. Okay, I'll do it. She confirmed her participation that evening and found herself swept into a new world of preparing art for public display. She had to pick out frames, decide how to price her work, if she even wanted to sell it, and figure out how to present each piece in a cohesive manner. Valerie offered to help her find affordable frames at a thrift shop, while Joy promised to be there for the opening day, camera in hand. Simone volunteered to help with setting up the display booth. She insisted she'd be the best hype woman Mia could ask for. Meanwhile, at Speedy Burger, life marched on. The staff faced the usual array of friendly patrons, impatient lunch breakers, and the occasional disgruntled face. Mia handled them all with her practiced grace, though she still felt that small, automatic clench of her heart whenever someone raised their voice. Yet each time she reminded herself that she was more than her fear. Daniel's scholarship applications were still pending, but he'd mentioned to Mia that he felt hopeful. One quiet morning, they found themselves restocking straws and napkins side by side. Mia nudged him gently. Heard anything yet? He shook his head. Not yet. I'm checking my email daily. You'll get something, she assured him. I believe in you. He offered a half smile. Thanks, I appreciate that. Raoul popped his head around the corner, telling them a wave of customers had just walked in. They wrapped up their restocking and hurried to the registers. Mia took the lead, greeting the new arrivals with her signature warmth. The first few orders went smoothly, a cascade of coffee cups and breakfast sandwiches. But then, toward the end of the line, she spotted a familiar face. Her heart skipped a beat. It was the man who had thrown the milkshake. He stood there, shifting from foot to foot, looking out of place. Unlike before, he wasn't on the phone, nor was he glaring or barking orders. In fact, he looked almost tentative, eyes flicking around as if searching for something. Mia's throat tightened. She willed her hands not to shake. Before she could decide what to do, Simone gently nudged her aside. I'll take this one, Simone murmured. Mia nodded, stepping back. She concentrated on breathing, the memory of that day flashing across her mind in sharp detail. She watched, out of the corner of her eye, as the man approached Simone's register. He cleared his throat, ordered a medium coffee, black, and a breakfast burrito. His voice was subdued, lacking the aggression Mia had come to associate with him. As Simone finished ringing him up, Mia saw the man glance in her direction. Their eyes met briefly. She couldn't interpret the flicker in his expression. Was it remorse, curiosity, something else entirely? She shifted her gaze, focusing instead on the next customer. Her chest pounded, but she managed to keep her composure. A few minutes later, Maya set his order on the pickup counter. Mia busied herself with bagging napkins for another guest, but she felt his presence as he approached. Simone handed him the coffee. He paused, hovered. Then in a voice just loud enough for Mia to hear, he murmured, "Excuse me." Simone tensed. "What do you need?" she asked, voice tight. He looked directly at Mia now, though she stood a couple of steps away. "Can we talk for a second?" he asked, not unkindly. Mia glanced at Simone and then at Raoul, who had also noticed the man's presence. Raoul seemed ready to intervene at the slightest hint of trouble. Mia felt torn between fear and a strange curiosity. Maybe this was the moment for some kind of closure. She nodded slowly, stepping forward. Simone's hand twitched as if she wanted to hold Mia back, but Mia took a breath. They moved to the side near a condiment station. The man placed his cup on the counter, exhaled, then turned to face Mia. I wanted to say," he paused, swallowing. "I'm sorry for what happened before. I was having a really bad day, but that's not an excuse." He stared at the ground. "I've thought about it a lot. I felt terrible afterward. I was angry at myself for losing control like that." Mia's heart pounded so hard it nearly drowned out his words. She took in his hunched posture, the guilt lining his features. Her mouth felt dry. In a trembling voice, she managed, "Thank you for apologizing." He nodded, eyes flicking up to hers. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I'm sorry." Mia swallowed. It hurt me a lot. "But I appreciate you coming back to say that." They stood there in silence for a moment, the hum of the restaurant around them. Finally, he picked up his coffee, gave a small nod, and left. Mia felt like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Simone came over, wide-eyed. "Girl, are you okay?" Mia stared at the glass doors that had just closed behind him. She felt a swirl of emotions, relief, shock, lingering pain, and a small glimmer of solace. "I think so," she whispered. Raoul approached, concern etching his face. "He didn't upset you, did he?" Mia shook her head. "No, actually," he apologized. Wow, Simone said, her brows arching high. That's unexpected. Yeah, Mia agreed softly. She let out a slow breath, feeling a tension she hadn't realized she was carrying melt away. Maybe closure was a grand gesture or a drawn-out conversation. Maybe it was simply those few words, "I'm sorry." The tears that threatened to form in Mia's eyes were partly from relief and partly from the lingering hurt that had just been acknowledged. She dabbed at them quickly, focusing on the next customer in line, reminding herself she was at work. Simone shot her small, concerned glances throughout the rest of the morning, but Mia found herself feeling oddly lighter. The apology didn't erase what happened, but it gave her a sense of finality. She chose to hold on to that relief. Over the next few days, Mia stayed busy preparing for the upcoming art fair. Every spare moment was dedicated to finishing her watercolors, matting them on poster board, and writing small descriptions. She even included a piece titled Chocolate Resilience, which depicted a swirl of milkshake-like patterns blossoming into bright flowers, a subtle nod to her experience. Only Joy, Simone, and Valerie understood the inspiration behind that one. They each praised its vibrant colors and the softness that seemed to emerge from the chaos in the painting. The day of the fair arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. Mia woke early, her stomach dancing with nerves. Joy helped her load the framed paintings and display stands into the trunk of their car. At the venue, a local park, white tents had been set up in neat rows, each booth showcasing an artist, a craftsperson, or a performer. Mia found her assigned booth, a small corner space with enough room for a table and some easels. Simone arrived shortly after with donuts and coffee, insisting they celebrate Mia's big day with sugar. Set it up however you like, Simone told her, mouth full of donut. This is your show, girl. Mia arranged her paintings carefully, stepping back every so often to assess the layout. She pinned small price tags on each, though she felt nervous about actually selling them. Valerie showed up mid-morning, toting a bouquet of flowers that she insisted on placing in a vase near the front of Mia's display, adding a festive touch. The fair officially began at 10 a.m., and soon a steady stream of visitors wandered through, stopping to admire various artworks. Mia tried to stay calm, greeting people with a soft smile, explaining her pieces if they asked. Occasionally, a passerby would pause at Chocolate Resilience, reading the little card Mia had written, a reflection on turning hurt into hope. It was subtle, but those who took the time to read often gave Mia a curious, contemplative nod. That alone made her feel validated. People were seeing a piece of her heart laid bare in watercolor. Around noon, Joy arrived, camera at the ready, capturing photos of Mia talking with attendees. Simone hopped in a few pictures, draping an arm around Mia. By then, Mia had sold 2 small paintings, both floral scenes. She felt an electric thrill each time someone said, "I'll take this one." But beyond sales, she cherished the supportive remarks like, "These are so uplifting," or "I love the color choices." Daniel surprised her by coming too. He showed up wearing a casual jacket, hair slightly disheveled, looking around with interest. Mia's eyes widened in delight as he approached. "Daniel, you came." He rubbed the back of his neck, a sheepish smile forming. "Yeah, I did." He pointed at one of her paintings, a bold sunrise in orange and pink. "This is really cool. I didn't know you could do that." Mia laughed. "I've been painting for a while, just never shared it publicly until now." He studied the other pieces, eventually stopping at Chocolate Resilience. He read the description, lips parted in a silent O. Then he glanced at Mia. "Is this about?" She nodded. "Yeah, about that day." Daniel nodded slowly, as though absorbing the gravity of it. "Like it? It's like something dark turned into something beautiful." "Thanks," she said softly. "That was the idea." To her astonishment, Daniel pulled out his wallet, fingering through some bills. "How much is it?" he asked, pointing at Chocolate Resilience. Mia felt her cheeks grow warm. "It's $50," she replied, though she would have handed it over for free if he insisted. She never expected Daniel to be interested. "Are you sure you want that one?" He nodded earnestly. "Absolutely." He placed the money in her hand. "I want something to remind me that things can change, even when they start bad." Mia blinked back tears. She slipped the painting out of its display carefully, wrapping it in protective paper. When she handed it to him, he gave her a small, grateful grin. "Thank you, Mia," she inhaled, letting the joy and pride wash over her. "No, thank you," she whispered. The moment felt symbolic, like a full-circle affirmation that from hurt, something genuine and hopeful had emerged, connecting them as friends and coworkers. By the late afternoon, Mia had sold 4 of her paintings, but more importantly, she'd shared her passion with her community. Joy, Simone, Valerie, and Daniel all hovered around her booth at various times, cheering her on, complimenting her on her bravery. Mia felt something crystallize inside her, a sense that her life was bigger than the sum of her fears. She had faced humiliation and come out with a deeper faith in humanity. She had discovered a gift within herself that extended beyond the cheerful greeting at a fast food counter. She had creativity and vision that could resonate with others. When the fair wound down, and Mia packed up her unsold art, she was surprised at the calm that settled in her heart. She had once dreaded being in the spotlight, worried about stumbling over her words or being judged. Now she realized that showing her art, and in turn, a piece of her soul, actually made her feel stronger. Joy, Simone, Valerie, and Daniel helped load the car, each praising Mia's success in their own way. Mia's cheeks hurt from smiling as they finally locked up the trunk. Driving home, Mia leaned her head against the passenger's seat, gazing out the window as the day's golden light streamed through. She thought about how, less than a year ago, she had been drenched in cold chocolate shake, feeling small and humiliated. Now she felt empowered, not because she'd conquered all her insecurities, but because she recognized that she could still thrive despite them. She remembered the man's apology, the quiet sincerity in his voice, and realized that as people, we were all capable of hurting each other, but also capable of remorse and healing. The next week at Speedy Burger felt almost surreal. Customers came and went, but a few recognized Mia from the art fair, stopping to say they'd loved her watercolors. Raoul proudly introduced her as their resident artist. Mia found herself blushing with humility and pride, though she tried to remain professional behind the register. Simone teased that Mia would soon have too many fans to stay at Speedy Burger. Mia laughed, insisting she wasn't going anywhere just yet. Daniel, too, seemed more at ease. One day they were on break together, and he showed Mia a photo on his phone. Her painting, already hung on his bedroom wall. "Helps me think positive," he said, "especially when I'm stressed about these scholarship applications. I haven't heard back yet, but seeing this reminds me it's worth hopping." Mia felt tears prick her eyes. "That means a lot," she whispered. "Thank you for believing in my art." He shrugged, a faint smile curving his lips. "It's easy to believe in something real." By midsummer, Mia's daily life had found a gentle balance between her shifts at Speedy Burger, her volunteer sessions, her blossoming artistic pursuits, and her time with friends and family. She still had moments of doubt, times when an impatient customer would raise their voice or a big crowd would make her anxious. But each time, she remembered that kindness and courage could grow from pain. One afternoon, after finishing her shift, Mia was wiping down a stack of trays near the kitchen. Raoul appeared looking mildly excited. "Mia, do you have a moment to talk in my office?" he asked. She set the trays aside, following him. Her heart fluttered slightly, wondering if this was about her performance or something else. His office was a cramped little space with motivational posters on the walls. He gestured for her to sit. "I'll get right to it," Raoul began, leaning against his desk. Corporate has decided to roll out a new inclusion program, an initiative focusing on training, mentorship, and growth opportunities for employees with disabilities. I've recommended you to be part of a pilot mentorship. You work with new hires who might also have disabilities or just need extra support. Mia's eyes widened. "Me," he nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, you know this job inside and out. You're patient, and you're a natural leader, whether you realize it or not." A swirl of emotions rose in Mia's chest: surprise, nervousness, pride. I'd love to help," she replied softly. Raoul clapped his hands once. "Wonderful, details are still being ironed out, but I wanted to give you a heads up. You'll get a small raise, too, in recognition of the additional responsibility." Mia's mouth fell open. "Really?" Raoul nodded, smiling. "You've earned it, Mia." She walked out of his office feeling like her feet weren't touching the ground. The woman who once needed extra time to learn the register, who doubted if she was cut out for customer service at all, was now going to mentor others. Her mind spun with gratitude and disbelief. She shared the news with Simone first. Simone hugged her so tightly that Mia giggled, struggling to breathe. "You deserve it," Simone declared. "They couldn't have picked a better person." Daniel also offered a quiet congratulations. "Told you you're more than a cashier," he said. That evening at home, Joy was practically dancing around the kitchen when Mia told her. "This is incredible, honey. I'm so proud of you," she cooed, pulling Mia into a warm embrace. Mia returned the hug, feeling her mother's steady heartbeat against her cheek. They decided to celebrate by ordering takeout and watching a favorite movie. Mia drifted to sleep that night feeling a serene sense of accomplishment. She never aimed for recognition. She just wanted to do her best. Knowing that her best was now helping others felt like the sweetest reward. Weeks turned into months, and the new program rolled out in earnest. Mia found herself paired with a newcomer named Janine, a shy young woman with a hearing impairment. Janine had a hearing aid and could read lips fairly well, but she struggled with the noisy, chaotic environment of the restaurant. Mia spent hours with her, showing her the best ways to read the order screen, demonstrating how to count back change without relying on a customer's verbal cues. Janine's eyes lit up whenever she felt truly included. Watching Janine grow more confident reminded Mia of her own first days on the job, how Simone had been the rock she leaned on. Now, Mia was returning the favor. The entire atmosphere of the restaurant seemed to shift as more employees and managers received training on how to support differently abled coworkers. It wasn't perfect. Some people still made ignorant comments. Some customers remained impatient. But the progress was tangible. Mia felt it every time Janine shot her a grateful smile after completing a complicated transaction without any hiccups. Outside of work, Mia's volunteer sessions continued, and she occasionally sold another painting or two. She hadn't quit Speedy Burger. She had no intention to, at least not yet. She was happy to be exactly where she was, growing at her own pace. In the back of her mind, she harbored bigger dreams. Maybe one day, she'd open a small art studio that welcomed people of all abilities, offering them a space to paint, craft, and share their stories. But for now, she was content to keep weaving her life's threads together: art, work, friendship, service. As her journey unfolded, Mia often paused to reflect on the day that changed everything: the flying chocolate shake, the humiliating sting, and the bystander who refused to stay silent. She had grown from that moment in ways she never could have predicted. Perhaps the man's cruelty had been a catalyst for something good. Perhaps Valerie's bravery had inspired Mia to believe in her own worth. Perhaps Simone's unwavering support and Daniel's friendship each played a role in forming the tapestry of Mia's resilience. And maybe, just maybe, life had a way of turning broken shards of experience into a mosaic more beautiful than the original shape. One evening, after her shift and a long walk in the park, Mia sat at her desk, painting. The setting sun filtered through her curtains, bathing the room in a soft glow. She dipped her brush in orange paint, swirling it over a fresh sheet of paper. She thought about the day's events: a new wave of customers at Speedy Burger, a short moment of tension when a cashier's machine went down, Simone's loud laughter rolling across the restaurant, Daniel quietly celebrating a small scholarship award. Yes, he'd finally gotten good news. It wasn't a full ride, but it was enough to encourage him to take another step toward his dreams. And Janine confidently ringing up orders without missing a beat. Mia smiled, stroking the orange paint across the page in wide arcs. She blended pinks and purples around the edges, envisioning a sky at dawn, bursting with possibilities. When she finished, she wrote a tiny note in the corner: "Hope rises." Then she set her brush aside and gazed at the painting. Tomorrow she'd head back to Speedy Burger, greet more customers, support her coworkers, and carry on with the life she had built so carefully. She felt her chest swell with quiet gratitude. This was her story: an ordinary girl with Down syndrome, forging her place in the world, turning adversity into art, sprinkling kindness wherever she went, and learning that sometimes from the simplest of moments: a spilled drink, a handshake, a shared laugh, a tapestry of hope could emerge. And she knew her story would continue evolving, day by day, layer by layer, brighter than she could ever have imagined. If this journey moved you and you want to hear more stories like Mia's, stories about overcoming adversity and finding hope, head over to my YouTube channel. We'll explore real-life triumphs, encourage each other to keep going, and celebrate the power of kindness. Join the community, share your own stories, and let's keep shining together. See you there.